Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave your comment, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear the real side of betrayal. This story is raw, true, and might just change how you see trust forever. You think you know betrayal until it walks into your living room wearing your husband's best friend's smile. I was a wife, a grieving woman, a believer in loyalty, until I became the main character in a story I never asked to be part of. People think infidelity is just about sex, but what if I told you it starts way before the clothes ever come off? What if I told you the most dangerous cheating happens in the heart? This isn't just another tale from Reddit. It's not a juicy drama or a casual fling. This is a real story of infidelity, one filled with emotional cheating, marital disloyalty, a shocking revelation, and a secret so twisted, it still echoes in my bones. I'm not proud of what happened, but I'm not hiding anymore either. Because someone out there needs to hear this before they make the same mistake I did. We're about to walk through a story of forbidden confessions, secrets revealed, and a betrayal that shook the very ground I stood on. And yes, race, trust, grief, and attraction all collided in one moment that changed everything. You ready for the truth? I still remember the way Mark used to hold my hand in silence, like he could hear everything I wasn't saying. In the beginning, our love felt untouchable, built on trust, laughter, and that sweet kind of complicity only two people who truly see each other can share. But life has a strange way of testing what we believe to be permanent. It wasn't cheating in the traditional sense, no, but the emotional pull I felt for Daniel, Mark's best friend, crept in like a shadow. Daniel was always around. He was smart, loyal to Mark, and, ironically, the one who helped us through every marital storm as our lawyer. That closeness made everything even more confusing. I buried my feelings deep, thinking I was just tired, just lonely. Emotional cheating doesn't always start with flirting. It often begins with understanding, with a look held too long, with secrets you're afraid to admit even to yourself. The guilt? Oh, it started long before anything happened. There's something dangerously seductive about being seen when you feel invisible. I wasn't planning on becoming an unfaithful wife, but the way Daniel listened to me, remembered small details, stood beside me when Mark was distant, it opened a door I swore I'd never touch. I became emotionally dependent, something no married woman should let happen with another man. That's where betrayal is born, in those silent corners where truth hides behind loyalty. And yet I stayed. I kept the mask on, smiled at Mark, made dinner, kissed him goodnight. Inside, though, a storm was brewing, because I knew I had crossed a line in my heart, even if no one else could see it. That's the thing about emotional infidelity. It's invisible ink on the pages of your marriage. Until someone looks close enough, or until the ink starts bleeding through the seams. Mark was never the kind of man to explode in jealousy or confront me head-on. He was sharp enough to feel things before they were said out loud. Looking back now, I realize how quiet he had become, how his eyes lingered on me just a second longer. He never asked about Daniel, but I could feel the weight of his silence every time Daniel's name came up. Sometimes, silence screams louder than words ever could. His affection shifted in subtle ways. He still brought me coffee in the mornings, still kissed my forehead, but the warmth had cooled, like he was watching me from the other side of a glass wall. That's what happens when trust starts to crack. It doesn't always come with arguments. Sometimes, it comes with hesitation, with the feeling that your partner is smiling while wondering if you're still theirs. That was the beginning of our marital breakup, and I didn't even realize it then. I could sense he was processing something. He started going to bed a little later, holding his phone tighter, watching me in moments he thought I wasn't looking. Was it a breach of trust on his part too? Maybe. Or maybe it was his heart trying to protect itself from the growing shadow between us. This wasn't just about emotional cheating anymore. It was about two people quietly drifting apart, each clinging to what was left of their love with bleeding hands. Still, I said nothing. I kept pretending we were fine, as if pretending could somehow patch the invisible wounds between us. But deep down, I knew Mark wasn't just being distant. He was suspicious. He felt the shift. He might not have had proof, but he had intuition. And as I would learn far too late, sometimes intuition is more dangerous than any evidence, especially when secrets are waiting just beneath the surface. The morning Mark died, I swear the world stopped breathing. One minute he was just there, sitting in his chair, sipping that strong black coffee he never skipped, and the next he was gone. A heart attack, they said. Sudden. Unexpected. But nothing felt accidental. Especially not to someone drowning in guilt. I hadn't done anything with Daniel, but my heart had already betrayed him. That's the act of infidelity no one talks about. The one that lives inside you, quietly. I couldn't stop shaking. The house felt colder, emptier, even with people coming and going with casseroles and condolences. And in the middle of all that chaos stood Daniel. He didn't have to say anything. The way he looked at me was enough to ignite everything I'd been hiding. He became my lifeline during those funeral arrangements, calm, present, almost too present. The same man I was supposed to lean on for legal matters was now holding pieces of me no one else could touch. We didn't sleep together. Let me be clear. But emotional closeness? That was undeniable. His presence soothed me in a way that made me feel safe and guilty all at once. I wasn't a cheating wife in the physical sense, but emotionally, I was tangled in a forbidden confession I hadn't even spoken aloud. Every second with him felt like walking on glass because part of me was still grieving and the other part wasn't just grieving Mark. It was mourning the life I had built on half-truths. The funeral wasn't just about Mark's death. It became a theater of my hidden truths, a place where every look, every touch, carried double meaning. And in the middle of all this, Daniel stayed close. Too close. I tried to believe it was just kindness, but deep down, I was starting to feel that familiar pull again, and the next night would test everything I thought I could control. That night, it still lives inside me like an unfinished sentence. The night before the funeral, the house was drowning in silence. Everyone had gone home. Daniel stayed. He said he didn't want me to be alone, and I didn't want to be alone either. The grief was heavy, but what scared me more was how comforting his presence felt. That's the twisted thing about emotional cheating. It doesn't knock loudly. It whispers when you're most vulnerable. We sat close on the couch, the lights dim, a glass of wine untouched between us. He looked at me, not as Mark's best friend, not even as my lawyer, but as someone who saw me. My pain, my loneliness, my guilt. That connection, as dangerous as it was, felt electric. When his hand reached for mine, I didn't pull away. I told myself it was just comfort, but we both knew that wasn't the full story. It was a forbidden testimony unfolding in real time. Our faces moved closer. The moment slowed down, like the universe was holding its breath. I could feel his warmth, his breath, his hesitation. It wasn't just lust. It was grief clashing with desire, wrapped in emotional disloyalty neither of us had the strength to name. Right before our lips touched, the front door creaked. A sound so small, but loud enough to snap the spell. We jumped apart like teenagers caught in the act. But the damage? It was already done. Nothing physical happened. But let me tell you something most people won't. Sometimes, the emotional betrayal hurts more than a physical one. Because you can't undo a feeling once it's been exposed. You can't unfeel that magnetic pull. And after that night, I couldn't look at myself the same way. Neither could Daniel. And yet, even then, I didn't realize someone else had already seen everything, someone who had been watching long before we ever got that close. David was always the quieter one. Mark's younger brother, the kind of man who didn't speak much, but never missed a thing. During the funeral, while others offered awkward hugs and empty words, his eyes never left me. There was no smile, no softness, just that piercing gaze. It felt like he could see straight through me, like every hidden thought I'd buried was written on my forehead for him to read. Whenever Daniel approached, David's stare grew sharper. He wasn't accusing me out loud, but his silence felt like a verdict. I kept wondering, does he know? That's the terrifying part of emotional infidelity. It leaves no physical trace, but some people can feel its presence like a scent in the air. And David? He didn't just suspect. He was waiting for something. Or maybe for someone to finally break the silence. Later that night, after the crowd had thinned, he pulled me aside. No small talk, no soft landing. Just a simple question that shattered me. You really think Mark didn't know? My breath caught. My heart, it dropped. Then came the flood. He told me Mark had been suspicious for weeks. That they had talked. That Mark had begun collecting things. That he had even spoken to Daniel, his lawyer, about divorce. And that's when everything began to unravel. The man I had silently betrayed had been watching me unravel long before I realized it myself. He hadn't confronted me. He had prepared. He was planning something, maybe even his escape. And the one man I had emotionally clung to during all this might not have just been a bystander. In that moment, I felt the first twinge of fear that maybe, just maybe, this betrayal ran deeper than I imagined. David didn't stop there. His words kept coming, slow and sharp, like needles under my skin. He told me Mark hadn't just talked to him. He had gathered proof. Emails. Phone records. Conversations I thought were harmless, but which apparently weren't so invisible after all. He said Mark had handed everything over to Daniel himself, asking him to prepare the paperwork for a quiet divorce. Yes, Daniel, the same man I had grown emotionally attached to. My so-called confidant. I felt my knees go weak. My heart pounded louder than the wind outside. You mean to tell me, the man who had been comforting me, holding my hand through grief, was the same one Mark trusted to handle his separation? What kind of betrayal is that? This wasn't just emotional cheating anymore. It felt like I had stepped into a betrayal story too twisted to be fiction. And suddenly, everything I thought I understood blurred. That timing. That awful, impossible timing. David leaned in and whispered something I'll never forget. Mark was planning to serve the papers the same day he died. The same day. I couldn't breathe. Was it fate? Coincidence? Or something darker? My mind spiraled. Had Daniel known? Could he have done something? No, that's too insane. But still, once the seed of doubt is planted, it doesn't just grow, it consumes. And then David walked away, just like that. Left me standing there with my thoughts spinning, my stomach in knots. Everything was upside down. Mark was gone. My guilt had morphed into paranoia. And Daniel, the one person I thought I could lean on, suddenly felt like a stranger I didn't trust. I didn't say anything to him that night. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Because there was still one more conversation waiting to happen. The next morning, I sat in the silence of my living room, staring at the framed photo of Mark and me on our wedding day. My hands were cold, my mind loud. David's warning echoed in my ears. Be careful. Others are watching. I didn't know what he meant exactly, but it sent a chill down my spine. Was it guilt making me paranoid? Or had I been living in a love-cheating story far more dangerous than I ever imagined? When Daniel showed up that afternoon, everything in me tensed. He smiled gently like he always did, but something had shifted. I couldn't see the comfort in his eyes anymore, only shadows I hadn't noticed before. I wanted to ask him outright. Did you know? Did you betray Mark? But the words never made it past my lips. Instead, I smiled back, pretended, just like I had done for so long. Except now, I was the one hiding a forbidden confession. He sat beside me like it was the most natural thing in the world, asked how I was holding up, placed his hand gently on my shoulder, but all I could feel was suspicion crawling under my skin. This wasn't just a case of an unfaithful partner or a cheating spouse. This was something else entirely, something darker. It wasn't just about emotional infidelity anymore. It was about intent. And suddenly, every second I spent near him felt dangerous. I kept quiet. I played the role. But inside, I was unraveling. Not just from grief or betrayal, but from the possibility that the man comforting me might have had a hand in my husband's death. Maybe not directly, but indirectly. Or emotionally, or legally. And that terrifying thought, that's what haunted me more than any act of infidelity ever could. Because what if the man I trusted was never just a witness in my story, but the architect? So let me ask you something. How many silent betrayals are happening behind the masks of "we're fine"? How many marriages are holding on by a thread because no one has the courage to talk about the emotional infidelity, the real kind, the kind that starts with a thought, a glance, a secret feeling? You don't need to be kissed to be betrayed. You just need to be forgotten, overlooked, replaced in someone's heart. This story wasn't about a villain or a victim. It was about choices, weaknesses, and truths that were too afraid to say out loud. Maybe you saw a piece of yourself in me. Maybe you've been the unfaithful wife. Or maybe you've been the one quietly betrayed while pretending not to notice. Either way, you deserve to stop living in the shadows of silence. You deserve to know what's really going on behind closed doors. Now it's your turn. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever felt emotionally tempted by someone outside your marriage? Do you believe emotional cheating is as serious as a physical affair? I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about the truths we're taught to keep buried. And if this story made you feel something, anything, don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications. Because I've got more to share, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.